All right, I think we are live. Hey, how is it going? It is your muscle building and fat loss coach, Lee Hayward, back again with another live video Q&A. And today is our video chat for October the 8th. So if you're brand new to these video chats, I just want to let you know how these things work. It's basically I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering any questions that you may have regarding fitness, nutrition, any specific challenges that you have with regards to your workouts, with regards to your eating or building muscle, losing fat, anything along those lines. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our video chat window there, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out during today's chat. And also, let me know, where are you tuning in from? What part of the world are you tuning in from? What time is it in your local area? I see several people jumping on our chat now. So I'm just going to kind of stretch a little bit here and give people a chance to tune into the live stream here. We have Piff Possum joining in. We have Ralph joining in. We've got Jerry. We've got Jesse. Hello, gentlemen. How's it going? Nice to see you tuning in. What time is it and where are you to? What neck of the woods are you from? Let me know. Be interesting to see. Got Jesse from Texas at 3:41 in the afternoon. Okay, awesome. And Jerry's over in the Philippines at the wee hours of the morning. We've got Lee Dunnigan joining in from over in the UK, I believe. Who else we got joining in? Awesome. And if you're new to these video chats, I want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people tuning in. I know a lot of the people I'm referring to here are regulars. I recognize the names on a regular basis here, tuning in. And I've been doing these video chats for quite a while. Been doing YouTube for quite a while as well. I remember I started YouTube back in 2006, back when YouTube literally started online. And how I got started. Now, some people always like to know, like, how did you get started doing this? The reason why I started making videos was I was actually competing in powerlifting back in the early 2000s, just getting started with it. And several of the local lifters in that recommended that I videotape myself doing my lifts so that I could self-coach and basically critique my technique by watching it back on video. That was a suggestion that I had from several lifters. So that's what I did. And I went into the gym with an 8mm camcorder, right? This was before the days of digital cameras. It was an 8mm camcorder. Set it up on a tripod at our local gym. And I used to video myself doing my lifts. So, you know, squat, bench, deadlift, whatever, and all that stuff. And I was videoing it and just checking my form, seeing, you know, okay, am I making depth with the squat? Am I pausing the barbell at the chest long enough with the bench press, and seeing if it would get a white light in powerlifting, you know, by powerlifting standards. And of course, when I would hit a personal best, I mean, obviously I'd be proud of it and I wanted to show it off. And it was hard to share videos back then, but I found out about this site called YouTube, and hey, you could share videos on it. So all I did back in the day is I literally used to post up a couple video clips of some of my PRs, some of my best lifts when I was competing in powerlifting, and shared it on YouTube. And then I would just like email it to my friends or whatever and say, hey, I lifted whatever today, and here's a video of it. And that's how I started, right? So, I mean, that was the first videos that I ever published to YouTube. There was no editing. There was none of this, like a community or having a channel or none of that stuff. It was just, hey, I thought it was a place where you could upload a video and share it. Like, that's all it was. But now, of course, it's become this, like, the ultimate social media search engine, whatever. I mean, you know, it's a whole community now. And it's crazy just to see how it's evolved. But back when I started, I literally just looked at it as nothing more than a place, hey, here, I could put a video and I could share the link to that video. That was it. And I mean, that's the humble beginnings of the channel. That's where it all came from back then. And I used to do the same thing with bodybuilding shows, like with posing routines and stuff like that. And in fact, if you do a search on YouTube for like Lee Hayward bodybuilding posing routine, you can see some of my old routines from back in the day as well. Yeah, which reminds me, I actually have a new posing routine that I should be posting up here as well, because I competed in the Newfoundland Provincials back in July, and I did not post my posing routine from that show. So I should do that one as well. So I just reminded myself of something. Man, note to self, now I'm going to post that routine. That's a video you can look forward to seeing this week. I'll post that one up. All right. Anyway, guys, who else we got joining in? We've got Ellen joining in. We've got Mohammed joining in. Emma's joining in. Awesome. Good stuff. All right. Well, I'm going to just jump into our video chat. Let's see. We got questions and comments coming through. We have a question here from No Autographs saying, what's the best workout split for someone who can go to the gym every day as much as they want during the week? I work on weekends. Well, that really depends on you, your fitness level, your work capacity. There's a lot of variables. And anytime you hear like the best diet, best workout, best whatever, it's somebody's opinion. And who are they gearing that towards? Because the best workout for a 20-something-year-old who's looking to bulk up and gain size could be totally different compared to the best workout for a 50-year-old who's looking to lose weight. Or it could be totally different for an athlete who's trying to improve sport-specific performance, right? The best workout for an endurance athlete is going to be different than the best workout for a power lifter. I mean, like the best workout really depends on you, your situation, and what it is that you're working out for. But one thing I will caution on, more isn't better, right? Especially if your goal is to build size, build strength, more isn't always better. And the reason for that is because you need to give your body a time to rest, recover, and grow. Like the workout, that you don't build muscle in the gym. You break muscle down. Like going to the gym, that's the stimulus, but it's tearing your body down. It's breaking down the muscle tissue. It's putting stress on the joints, tendons, ligaments, all this stuff. Like you tear yourself down, you break it down. Then in the rest recovery process, that's when the growth occurs. And if you try and work out too often, too frequently, then you actually shortchange that process. So it's like you're tearing it down, but you're never given a chance to rebuild. And I was guilty of this when I was younger, especially in my early days during summer vacation, right? This back when I was a teenager and I had the summer off, that's when I used to do these marathon long workouts. And they're just stupid. I thought, hey, the longer I worked out, the more often I worked out, the faster I'm going to grow. And I can remember doing these 3 and 4 hour long marathon workouts. And I used to brag about it, talking about like, hey, I was in the gym 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, right? Working out every day, twice a day sometimes, and all this. And the crazy thing is initially it actually did produce some results. But after 2 or 3 weeks of that, it started to it started to drain on me. So like I was getting to the point where I wasn't able to recover fast enough. And that's when the whole overtraining spirals kicks in. And that's what ended up happening to me. So what I found ultimately, where I made my best gains in terms of muscle size and strength, was an every other day approach where I'd work out one day, take the next day off, work out one day, take the next day off. And when I switched to that approach, I actually made much better gains. That's looking back over my whole, since I started training as a teenager, when I've made my best gains, it was always with that approach every other day. Sometimes I would stretch it to 2 days on, 1 day off. But I found if I went beyond that, then the progress kind of diminished. It was kind of like the point of diminishing returns, where I was putting in more effort, but not getting more results for that effort. So even now with my weight training, I like to do every other day or 3 days a week, however you want to split it up. That's usually the way I do it. And what I do now is I alternate weight training one day, cardio the next, weight training one day, cardio the next. And this way I'm able to get daily exercise, but it's not stressful. It's actually complementary because it's different forms of exercise. Like the weight training, that's breaking down the muscle tissue, that's high intensity exercise, that's stressing the central nervous system. And then on the cardio days, that's more low intensity exercise. It's kind of like an active recovery from the weight training, but I'm still getting the benefits of exercise, like the blood flow, the circulation, the endurance, the cardiovascular health, and all that stuff. And I find that that's a good complementary mix. And I refer to this as my yin and yang training system. And if you Google search like Lee Hayward yin and yang workouts, and you'll see videos that I've done on this. And the high intensity alternated with the low intensity. And it's a great way to allow you to exercise daily, but not burn yourself out in the process. So that's what I would recommend for someone who wants to work out as often as they can and still reap the benefits. And again, it really depends on you, your situation, what it is you're training for. But I'm just kind of giving some general guidelines here. Hopefully you can take some stuff away from it. But if you want a specific program, like customized to you, your situation, your schedule, your goals, or whatever, hey, reach out to me. We can have a chat about it, brainstorm some ideas, and see if we can come up with an action plan that's right for you. But hopefully what I just shared there is gives you some food for thought, right? More isn't always better. And sometimes you can actually do too much and get diminishing returns. And that's frustrating when you get into that point. And I see it a lot where people are like, what am I doing wrong? Right? Like, hey, I'm training, I'm busting my ass, I'm doing everything. Where's the progress? Why am I not seeing the results? And very often that could be the case, right? You're just burning your body out and not giving it a chance to complete the whole circle, right? It's stimulate, and then it's rest, recover, grow, right? You need to go through that full cycle in order to reap the benefits. All righty, let's see what else we got. We have other questions. Let's see. Jerry is asking, is it okay if I use bro split workout routine? I'm 11 years old. Congrats on starting working out at such a young age. I respect that. I started working out. Really, I started working out when I was very young, but like an actual workout program where I could say, okay, I'm working out was when I was 12. That's when my father actually got us a home gym setup. And that was a Christmas gift that I asked for that year. It was back in 1990. I was 12 years old. I asked for a home gym weight set as my Christmas gift. So on Christmas Day, 1990, I did my first official workout routine with my good old dad as my training partner. And it was a York 2001 home gym machine. And we followed the York wall charts that came along with it. And that's my first structured program. But before then, I was doing like just half-ass workouts with push-ups. And I know dad had a set of like York dumbbells and I used to curl them. In fact, I can remember the dumbbells. I wasn't strong enough to curl the full dumbbell, so I used to grab it with both hands and try and do like bicep curls with two hands on one dumbbell. So, I mean, I used to do like half-ass workouts, even as young as like 6-7 years old, right? Just messing around with it. But my first structured program was when I was 12. So you're starting at 11. You got me beat by a year, right? Good for you. I respect that. Now, as far as what you want to do, the same advice that I kind of shared with the previous question would apply to you as well. More isn't always better. So I would recommend every other day a great place to start. So if as far as the whole bro split, like day 1 chest, day 2 back, day 3 legs, day 4 shoulders, day 5 arms, day whatever, like it's not the best way to train. I would actually recommend a total body workout. And that's what I did when I started. I did total body workouts 3 days a week. And the thing I like about total body workouts, especially for beginners, is you're doing a little bit of exercise for all your major muscle groups, but you're not doing excessive volume for any one muscle group. Because like if you do a bro split, so you go in, it's chest day, and you do 20 sets for chest. The next day, your chest is going to be so sore, everything's going to hurt and everything's going to ache. And you don't need that. You don't need to have that, extreme muscle soreness. You don't need to destroy a muscle. You just need to stimulate it. And there's a big difference. Like a lot of people think, oh, I got to go in and I got to kill it on chest day. I got to kill it on leg day, arm day, back day, whatever. You don't need to kill anything. You just need to stimulate. You just need to do enough to get the job done and then let the rest, recovery, and growth process occur. And that's why I like total body workouts. And even now, I err on the side of total body workouts where you're just going in, doing enough to stimulate that muscle, let it rest, recover, grow, stimulate it, rest, recover, grow, and not prolonging it by just going in there and doing too much. Because that's what a lot of people do, is they do too much. And to kind of give you an analogy, I mean, it's like taking a rocket launcher to a deer hunt. Right? Yeah, of course. You could kill a deer with a rocket launcher, but it's overkill. It's like it's going to just blow the thing to smithereens. You just need, a rifle or a bow and arrow or something. Like you just need to get the job done. You don't need to obliviate it to smithereens. And that's what this whole like going in there and doing a body part split routine where you kill it on a single body part. It's overkill. It's too much, right? It's not stimulate, it's annihilate. And to steal a line from former Mr. Olympia Lee Haney, he used to say, you want to stimulate muscle growth, not annihilate it. And that's why I recommend shorter, more frequent workouts. And I think that would be a better approach. And plus it's safer, right? There's less risk of injury, especially, when you're young, your body's still you're still in that developmental stage. You don't need to go overkill with it. So I would recommend 3 total body workouts a week. And if you want to sample, like, just head on over to my main YouTube channel. Like, there's several beginner total body workout routines that you can literally follow along with. Like, just play the video and you do the same thing, right? You can follow along with that video in the gym, and that'd be a great way to start. All right, moving on. Let's see what else we have. Mohammed is joining in from Kuwait. Hey, welcome. Emma is joining in. We have Dario joining in. What's your all-time best number of consecutive pull-ups? Whew, I'm trying to think now. It was back when I was doing the 300 workout program. Do you remember that? It was very popular when the movie 300 came out, and then Men's Fitness, or it was Men's Fitness, it was, or Men's Health. One of those magazines came out with the so-called 300 workout, and they promoted it as the program that the actors from the movie 300 used to get in shape. But from what I understand, now, I mean, it's all, who knows? I mean, it's just stories and stuff, but it was used as kind of like a test, as a benchmark workout to test someone's fitness level. It wasn't necessarily the exact program that they followed, but regardless of how it came about, I remember going through that for a while, and that was back, oh my gosh, mid 2000s, mid to late 2000s, somewhere around there it was. And part of that program was you did 50 repetitions of 7 different exercises to get 300 reps. I think that's how it worked. I actually have a video on YouTube showing it. But anyway, during that, the way it was with the pull-ups, which was one of the exercises, you broke it up into 2 sets of 25. And I remember doing that. And I actually did build up to a point of doing 25 pull-ups with that program. Now, I'll be honest, they weren't perfect, slow, controlled pull-ups. There was a bit of momentum, a bit of cheating in there, but that was the most that I have ever done in a single set, was 25. And that was cheating pull-ups right there. But yeah, so I mean, that was when, like, I don't remember the exact date, but it was in the late 2000s, somewhere around 2007, 2008-ish, somewhere around that time. Actually, it would have been before. It would have been around would have been around 2006, 2007, somewhere around that time, because I know it was in 2008 that I suffered my first major muscle tear that really hindered me from doing pull-ups. But anyway, you're taking me back a long time here, trying to dig up training information from the archive here. Let's see what else we got there. YT is joining in. I don't know if that stands for YouTube or what that stands for, but anyway, YT saying, I'm traveling to Hawaii for 12 days. Any eating out tips on how to avoid coming back 50 pounds heavier, because I gain weight easily and I have a ferocious appetite? Well, you're not going to gain 50 pounds in 12 days. If you do, that's kind of like world record or something. Like, no, it ain't happening. I know you're being sarcastic, but how do you avoid it? There's a few strategies, and I'll share some of the things that I've done myself when I've traveled, and it actually helped me to not only maintain my weight, but I've actually lost weight during holidays by implementing some of these strategies. One, you want to exercise every day, like some form of exercise. Now, you're on vacation, you're in Hawaii. This is a great time for outdoor activities, even if it's just walking, hiking, swimming. Like, just get off your ass and move. And that should not be hard in Hawaii if the weather's nice and you can get outside and enjoy it. I mean, if you want to try, like, rent a surfboard, because I know that's something you could try to do, and do some beginner surf lessons, or maybe you know how to surf. I don't know. But I remember several years back, that was one of the things we did when we were on vacation. I did some beginner surf lessons, and man, that's fun. It's a good workout. The other things, I mean, you could rent a bicycle, you could have some fun that way. If you have access to a gym, whether it's like a hotel gym or a local gym in the area, go there. But every single day, you want to get some form of exercise. Don't use it as an excuse to just lay around and veg and do nothing. In fact, when you're on vacation, that should be an excuse to actually get more activity, right? Because you're just moving. I mean, it's not necessarily all structured activity, but it's moving around, going places, hiking, walking, adventuring, stuff like that. So, I mean, that'll go a long way. Another thing that I would recommend, and this is kind of, it really depends on you and your situation there, but I would incorporate intermittent fasting when I be on vacation. And I found that this was a great way to help me still enjoy my meals, but prevent excessive calorie consumption. Now, intermittent fasting is a bit of a gray area because there's pros and cons to it. Depending on the situation and the individual, it could be very helpful or it could be very detrimental. Like in a high performance athlete, I wouldn't recommend it. For someone who's trying to maximize muscle gains, I wouldn't recommend it. But for someone who's simply just trying to control their caloric intake and burn body fat, it can be useful in certain situations. And I've used it myself in those types of situations. So what I would do, I would purposely skip breakfast, and just have water, coffee, 0-calorie beverages through the early part of the day. Then I'd probably have a late lunch and then dinner and maybe a snack before bed. That's what I would do. Or depending on the situation, maybe you just want to have like lunch and dinner, have 2 meals a day, something like that. And that's a great way to control your overall caloric intake and still fit in with a somewhat of a social environment. Because obviously when you're on vacation, the big meal is going to be your evening meal, your dinner, right? You want to sit down and enjoy that with the family. And if you purposely restrict your calories at other times, then you can still enjoy a good, satisfying dinner at a restaurant, eat normal, so to speak, and still keep your caloric intake in check. And a few other strategies you can use there is simply making better food choices when you're at the restaurant. So starting off like an appetizer, right? Start off with a garden salad. This is something that I do all the time. When I'm out to restaurants, whether it's vacation or just a regular restaurant or whatever, my appetizer is usually a large garden salad. And most places these days offer that. So we fill up on the veggies, get that volume in your belly first, pre-fill your belly with that low calorie dense food. And then that's naturally going to limit the amount of other stuff that you eat. But you can still eat the other stuff. You can still have your main course or whatever. But the appetizer, start with a garden salad. Other things that can be helpful too is soups, like soups or stews or something like that. Just be careful with it. Like try and choose some that are the leaner options. Because like sometimes if it's a very heavy, like a French onion soup that's loaded with cheese and stuff like that, I mean, obviously that's not low calorie, but if it's some sort of like a vegetable soup or maybe like a bean and lentil soup or something like that, that can be very filling, tasty, and satisfying and fill you up without a lot of calories. So soups and salads, as long as it's done right. And then same thing with the salads, go easy with the salad dressing and the toppings, because that can, that's one of the things. Like you could say, oh, I eat salad. But if it's loaded with cheese and God bless people calling me while I'm trying to do a video chat, how dare they? I'll let it go to voicemail. What was I talking about? Eating on holiday. Okay, yeah. So soups and salads. I was mentioning that. Yeah, like if you try and have a salad while you're on vacation or on with a restaurant, saying, "Well, I'm eating healthy, I'm eating salads," but then you got it loaded with cheese and bacon bits and like nuts and seeds and high fat salad dressing, or you're pouring olive oil over it. I mean, you could have this massive calorie dense salad. So, I mean, it's not helping your fat loss at all. So you got to be careful with what you put on it. Like the vegetables are good. It's what you put on those vegetables that can make or break it. So choose wisely, like the lower calorie options, or even if you are using regular salad dressings or whatever, just use it sparingly. Don't drown your salad in salad dressing and toppings. With the meal options, try and choose healthier choices like baked or grilled instead of fried, right? So instead of getting deep fried chicken, get grilled chicken or baked chicken. Instead of deep fried fish, get baked or grilled, right? Instead of having French fries, have a baked potato. Like little things like that go a long way, right? I mean, you just need to make better choices, and you can still enjoy the meals out, but do so in a smart way. For desserts and things like that, try and have fresh fruit for desserts instead of like the cake, cookies, ice creams, or whatever else they offer. What else? If you are going to have some of the not so healthy desserts, how about you split it? Like maybe you and your wife, can order a dessert between you. Like this is something that my wife and I do. Instead of us ordering a dessert each, we'll say, hey, we'll just have one one slice of cake with two forks, and we'll share it. And usually that's enough, like to get that craving out of your system and feel like you satisfied it without going overboard. Because this is one of the things you're going to find when it comes to food. More isn't always better. More is just more of the same. Like if you have a small ice cream or a small piece of cake or a small something, like more isn't better. Like if you eat two bowls of ice cream, the second bowl isn't going to taste any better than the first one. Or if you have two slices of cake, the second slice isn't going to taste any better than the first one. So one of the ways that you can satisfy those cravings is not ignoring them, but just having a smaller portion of whatever it is that you're craving. And that can obviously minimize the damage, minimize the calorie consumption, and keep things in check. And this is what I do myself. Like if I'm craving something, I don't neglect it. I satisfy that craving with a small portion so that I can get it taken care of, satisfy it, forget about it, and move on. And this is a problem that a lot of people have is they try and ignore their cravings. So like prime example, like let's say you're craving, I don't know, you're craving a bowl of ice cream. Like have a small bowl of ice cream or go to the ice cream shop and get the small kid size ice cream cone. Like get that craving satisfied, take it care of, and then you can forget about it and move on. Versus if you keep saying like, no, not allowed to have that ice cream, not allowed to have that ice cream. I'm on a diet, not allowed to have that ice cream. And you keep ignoring it, then eventually it's going to build and it's going to build and build. And then you get to the point where you say like, oh man, screw it. I can't stand it anymore. I got to have that ice cream. And then you're going to go to the store and you're going to buy the big old ginormous tub and you're going to sit down with a spoon and you're going to just scrape the bottom of the container, right? You're going to eat the whole thing and then just slam back like a couple thousand calories or more. And then you're going to like, oh man, I was on such a good roll. Now I blew it. I binged. Screw this. And then that's going to lead to a big old binge. Like this is what often happens. Like it's Friday night, right? Let's just say you have a moment of weakness on Friday night and you give in and you eat some ice cream or you have some cake or cookies or a pizza or whatever. And then you're like, oh, I just blew it. Screw it. I'll start again on Monday. So one little Friday night cheat will end up turning into a full day of cheating on Saturday because, oh, you screwed it just as well to start again on Monday, right? You got your momentum off and you're off the rails and everything else. So you'll cheat all day on Saturday. You're going to cheat all day on Sunday. And you want to get those cravings out of your system because, gosh darn it, the diet's going to start again on Monday. And just think of all the damage you did over the weekend because of one little cheat. If you had your little cheat on Friday, whatever it was, cake, cookies, ice cream, slice of pizza, something like that, have it, enjoy it, savor it, and then for your very next meal, get back on track. So back on track the next meal, or at least the very next day. Like don't let it spiral into a weekend of cheating. And this is where so many people screw up. And I mean, I'm after having conversations with hundreds of people, and this is the common thing. People say, oh, I do good all week long, right? Monday to Friday, Monday to Friday afternoon, let's be specific. I can do good. I can stick to my plan. I can eat clean. I can work out and blah, blah, blah. But come Friday afternoon, all hell breaks loose. And then it's, I'm junk food. We order out, we get takeaway, we go to a restaurant or we, pizza, beer, ice cream, cake, cookies. And then next thing you know, it's the whole weekend of cheating. And then I'm going to start again on Monday. And the problem with that is you'd be amazed at how many calories you can consume over the course of, a weekend of cheating. Like you could be in a calorie deficit and exercising from Monday to Friday. And then if you cheat all weekend long, like you could cancel out that entire calorie deficit and actually gain weight. And then this is where I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm eating healthy. I'm working out. Why am I getting fatter? It's because you're cheating on the weekends and you're just destroying your calorie deficit. To give you an analogy of this, I know I'm ranting on this one, but this is powerful stuff. Imagine you are very frugal with your money and you're always pinching your pennies, saving and being super frugal. Like, no, I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to buy the cheaper version. I'm going to save on this and save on that. And you're always so super frugal with your money and save. You don't want to be excessive with your spending. And you do that all month long, saving. And then you go to Vegas for a weekend and then you blow it all on the slot machines and the blackjack tables. Like, even though you were saving money all month long, one weekend in Vegas, you could be broke. Like, you could undo all that productive saving that you were doing all month long in a simple weekend. Same thing applies with your diet and exercise. Like, you could be eating clean, you could be healthy, you could be in a calorie deficit, working out, like doing all the right things from Monday to Friday, and then binge on the weekend. and you just undid all the damage or undid all the productivity that you had over the course of the weekend. And that's what happens for a lot of people. So everything counts, right? Cheat days are not free for all. Like, just because you call it a cheat day doesn't mean you can eat whatever the heck you want and it doesn't matter. It's just like saying, hey, all the money I blow on the slot machines in Vegas, that's not going to affect my bank account because it's a holiday. Like, no, of course it's going to affect your bank account. You're going to go broke, right? Same idea. So you need to look at the bigger picture here and focus on being good enough, but good enough consistently. All right. So hopefully that helps. I mean, if you want some more strategies or to chat about it, feel free to reach out to me. And of course, if you do want to elaborate on anything I'm talking about here, you can email me at leeh@leehayward.com, or you can friend me up on Facebook. I got my contact information down in the description of this video below, so you can reach out to me down there if you want. All right, Mohammed's joining in, saying it's great to see you in these cool Q&As. I like it so much. My question is, protein per kilo. I heard that there's a study that said 1.6, I'm assuming grams per kilo is enough, so 2 is not needed. Oh my goodness. When it comes to all these numbers, like what's the ideal protein intake? That's like trying to say, like, how much gas does a car burn? Or like how do you know? Like, it's such a vague question. Like, it depends. Like, are you talking about a daily driver that someone's using to just go back and forth to work? Or are you talking about a high performance race car, right? Are you talking about, someone who's wants a cross country, cruise? Or are you talking about someone who's got a 800 horsepower race car going down the quarter mile? Like, how much fuel does a car burn? How much protein does a body need? Like, they're all just generalizations. I mean, you can get away with very little protein intake. I mean, look at most vegetarians and vegans and stuff like that. Like, they consume very little protein on average, right? But they're still alive. I mean, how much do you need to survive? Probably not that much. I've heard studies and stuff saying, hey, as long as you're consuming 50 grams of protein a day or somewhere thereabouts, I mean, you can maintain normal health and function and survive and live. But is your goal to survive, or is your goal to maximize your athletic performance, maximize your muscle gains? So all these studies, take them with a grain of salt, because it's a study done on a specific group of people, and you don't know the end result. Like, are they comparing it to professional athletes, professional bodybuilders, or people who are really pushing limits? Or are they just comparing it to the average Joe who wants to consume enough nutrition so they don't die of starvation and malnutrition? Like, that's one of the things with the recommended daily intake, like of vitamins and minerals and all this kind of stuff. That whole RDA came about back in wartime, and it was like, well, what do we need to consume to ensure that our soldiers don't develop nutritional deficiencies and die of malnutrition? So they came up, well, you need at least this much, vitamin C, and this much vitamin B, and this much vitamin D. And like, they came up with the RDA, the recommended daily allowance of all the different vitamins and minerals and stuff like that, and the recommended caloric intake to prevent people from dying. It's not like, how do you optimize health and athletic performance or whatever. It's like, how do you stay alive? That's where RDA came from. So when it comes to these recommended protein intakes, I mean, maybe that study was saying, like, what's enough to keep people alive? It's not necessarily what's the optimal. What I would recommend you do is look at what people are doing in the real world, right? And the general rule of thumb in the whole bodybuilding, fitness, and athletic community is a gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. Now, I know that's pretty vague or whatever, or pretty simplistic, but it's a darn good place to start. Start with that. And if you want to be extra conservative, or I guess more specific, we could say 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight. So let's assume you want to lose weight. Like, let's just say you're 250 pounds, but ideally you want to weigh 200. Then 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight. So shoot for 200 grams of protein. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you're 175 pounds and you want to bulk up to 200. Well, then you would consume 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight, your goal weight. That's a good number to shoot for. And it's a little bit more advantageous than the 1 gram per pound. Because if somebody's really overweight, then you don't need to fuel excess fat pounds. And if someone's underweight, then they obviously need a surplus in order to build. So you can use that guideline, 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal goal body weight. That's where I would start. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like some days you're going to eat more, some days you're going to eat less. Like that's just the way it is. Very few people are going to eat the exact gram of protein, the exact calorie intake, the exact macro count day in, day out, week in, week out for months on end. Like it's very rare that that's going to happen. Like sometimes your appetite's not going to be the same. Sometimes you're going to get busy and you're going to skip meals. Sometimes, whatever. There's going to be Thanksgiving, family dinners, holidays, like where your diet's going to get off track. Like shit's going to happen. You might get sick and not have an appetite for a few days, or you might be extra busy and extra active, and then you're extra hungry and you'll eat more. Like real world is going to come into play. So it's not like you're going to eat the same diet day in, day out, week in, week out forever, right? It's going to fluctuate. And it's okay. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be spot on or hit the nail on the head every time. You just have to be good enough, but good enough consistently. You just have to be in the ballpark, but stay in the ballpark. The problem comes is when people are so meticulous and they're like, man, I got to be perfect with everything. And I got to have my calories and my macros and everything's perfect and spot on. And then once they get off track a little bit, they're like, oh, screw this. And then they go back to their old eating habits and just start, binging on junk food and say the hell with it. Like, it doesn't matter if it's off or not perfect. It just has to be good enough, but good enough consistently over the long term. And as long as you do that, you're going to make progress. Like my general rule of thumb, like every time I sit down to a meal, I want to have protein and veggies with that meal. And as long as I have protein and veggies with all my meals, I know I'm meeting my protein and veggie intake needs. Like I'm not slaving over the calculator and the weigh scale and my fitness pal and did I hit my grams per day? Like as long as every meal I'm having a serving of protein, boom, protein intake, done, check. Like that's it. Same with the vegetables, right? Check, done. Did I exercise today? Did I do either weight training or cardio or whatever? Okay, I exercise today, check, done. It's good enough. It's good enough consistently. And that's all you really need to focus on. Like you don't need to obsess over perfection, because this obsession over perfection actually is the biggest hindrance for a lot of people. Because if you're not perfect, then you get into the all or nothing trap, where it's like I'm either all in, or if I can't be all in, it's like, oh, screw it. What's the point? And then it's just like case of beer, order a pizza, and I'm going to binge watch Netflix, right? Like it's the all or nothing. It's like I'm all in, right? 2 hours a day in the gym, perfect calories, macros, meals prep, all this right to the letter, or there's no diet, no exercise at all. Like get out of that all or nothing trap. Good enough consistently is all it needs to be. So don't go stressing over like, oh, should it be 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, or should be 2 grams per kilogram of body weight? Like just eat protein with each meal, and then you'll be covered. Moving on. All right. I think we got another one about protein. Jerry's asking, how much percentage of protein can be this? 30 or 35%? I'm going to read that again. Jerry's saying, how much percent of protein can be this? 30% or 35%? Elaborate, Jerry. It can be either or. I don't know. I'm stumped. What else? Oh, we got a TS came in. He's saying he's got a question here, and he sponsored the chat. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. TS. He says, I hate leg workouts, so I do full body workouts, 5 or 6 exercises, 2 sets of each, and 1 leg exercise. 3 days a week, full body, and 1 leg exercise. You know what? That's actually a great way to cover body parts that you don't like to train, is you just do a little bit of it frequently. Because then if you had a leg day where you had to go into the gym and do nothing but legs, you would dread that workout. It wouldn't be fun. But if you have a total body workout where you only have to do, 1 leg exercise or a couple, however you want to split it up, it makes it more enjoyable, because it's just a little bit, right? It's just a little bit of stimulation, but it's actually still very effective, because I kind of addressed this earlier in the chat. This is how I structure my workouts more often than not now. And I mean, I'll change it up from time to time. Like every now and then I might get bored and want to do a split routine, or maybe I'll do some sort of 5x5 program or some, different type of training split. But more often than not, my default go-to workouts these days is total body workouts every other day. And I like that because one, it works with my schedule, because the way it is now, I may not make it to the gym on a regular basis. I mean, I've got a life outside the gym, parent, business, responsibilities, right? I'm not just, a teenager with nothing on the go and a schedule that's open and free where I can just work out anytime, whenever I want, for as long as I want. It's not like that anymore. It used to be, right? Back in the early days it was, but it's not like that anymore. So if I can't make it to the gym, I don't sweat over it, because I know, well, I'm doing total body workouts. So if I skip a day, I'm still going to hit everything the next day. So like the body parts don't go prolonged periods of time without any type of muscle stimulation. So it's actually very advantageous for people with busy schedules, is total body workouts. And even if you only make it to the gym twice a week, you're still hitting each muscle group twice a week, which is plenty to stimulate muscle growth and make progress. But in your case, where you mentioned you're doing it as a like you hate leg workouts, right? I mean, I get that. I mean, certain people just don't like certain body parts or certain workouts, but just doing a little bit, it's actually advantageous, because you just get it done, get it out of the way, but you can still go on and do the exercises you enjoy. So the whole overall experience of the workout can be a pleasurable one, because only a small percentage of it is doing exercises that you don't like doing. And I would suggest with that, though, that you reframe it, because saying I hate leg workouts isn't necessarily the best thing. Like, I understand that it's hard, it's demanding, it's challenging, and everything else, but kind of reframe it and think like the leg workouts are actually helping to fuel the other workouts, because the effort that you have to exert to training legs helps to stimulate a lot of metabolic processes in the body, right? I mean, it's going to help to elevate your metabolism. So, I mean, it's going to help have more calorie burning effect, which will be beneficial for fat loss. I mean, it has more of a stimulating effect for stimulating, natural anabolic hormones like your testosterone, your growth hormone, and all that stuff. I mean, you get more metabolic benefit when you do big exercises. So even though it's a leg workout, the indirect stimulation and the neuromuscular activation you get from that can help to carry over into your other workouts. And very often you'll see this, like a lot of times you look at like powerlifters or weightlifters or people who do a lot of heavy leg training. Even though they probably don't do isolation work as much as bodybuilders, they can still have very well developed muscular physiques all over as a direct byproduct of those heavy core lifts. Like you look at powerlifters who are good at squats, deadlifts, and bench presses, they're going to be big all over. Like, even if they're not doing isolation moves, even if they're not doing like direct bicep curls and lateral raises and things like that, they're still going to be big and thick all over, right? Because they've got that core foundation and the indirect muscle stimulation that comes about just from those big exercises, right? So, I mean, you'll find that with legs. People who are good at legs and strong in the leg exercises, it's going to carry over and they're going to be strong all over. So kind of reframe it and think, you know what, even though I'm right, the leg exercises are hard, think of like, this is helping amplify the rest of my body part workouts, and it's helped speed up growth all over. That's the way I like to look at it. So it makes the idea of doing leg workouts more enjoyable that way, right? Reframe it. Instead of saying you hate it, think of it as it's a means to an end. All right, what else we got there? Let's see. Any other questions? Thanks for the info. I'm going to do 3 days of weights, 2 days of cardio in between. Thanks. Cool. All right, that's a great way to start for sure. And if you want to do more, then like say, I would recommend. I mean, again, it depends on your personal goal here now, but daily cardio, especially low intensity cardio, like simple stuff like walking, like you can do that daily. You really can. It's the weight training and the high intensity stuff that you got to be cautious of. But low intensity exercise, walking and low intensity cardio, that's something that I would recommend doing on a daily basis, just for overall health, fitness, stress relief, heart health, all that stuff. Neil's joining in. He says, Lee, hope you're doing well. What are your thoughts about eating 3 meals a day versus 5 to 6 meals a day? This is for lean bulking. It really depends. And the idea behind nutrition is it depends on the overall amount. Like whether you split up your meals into 5 meals, 6 meals, 4, 3, 3 would be on the low end. From a blood sugar and appetite control and everything else, I find 3 meals a day to be kind of like the sweet spot because you're spacing your meals out. Like if you have your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner, I mean, there's a reason why we have that, right? The breakfast, lunch, dinner is because it's ideal for most people. Keeps your sugar and your energy level stable throughout the day. It fits in with most social situations. Like most places, like obviously you wake up in the morning, have your breakfast. Most places allow you to have a lunch break. Obviously, it's very common to have a dinner. So it fits in with a real world situation, right? Like if you're trying to eat 6 meals a day, that's where it can be awkward. And you got to okay, you got your breakfast, lunch, dinner, because that's what the rest of the world is doing. But then how are you fitting in those other meals, right? That's when you're see guys lugging around the Tupperware containers in a backpack and a cooler or something like that and trying to squeeze it in. And that's where it can be a bit awkward. But 3 meals a day is very practical for virtually everybody. And that's what I focus on. In fact, the way I like to do it, I like to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack before bed. So I'm having 4, right? 4 meals a day. But it's practical. Like I don't have to go around with a cooler and Tupperware containers everywhere I go. I mean, I used to do that when I was younger and kind of like my bodybuilding meathead days. Go around with the gallon of water jug, right? My cooler over my shoulder, and then all the pre-packed meals and everything else. And I try and like it's a pain in the arse. It really is. I mean, and that's what it's just it's not practical, right? But I did it. I did it for a long time. But now I just focus on the 3 main meals, and then I have a snack before bed, and then that works fine. And it's convenient, right? Because I don't need to go out of my way for it. I'm able to enjoy the meals with the family in a normal situation, and that works. And ultimately, the most important thing, it's not when you eat, it's actually what you eat and how much you eat. That's the most important thing, right? If you're eating like crap 6 times a day, or you're eating good 3 times a day. I mean, obviously, I'd rather eat good 3 times a day than eat like crap 6 times a day, or vice versa. Like it doesn't matter. And in your case, you're looking at lean bulking. So you want to be in a very slight calorie surplus, right? Very slight. And when I'm saying slight, I'm talking like 1 to 200 calorie surplus. In fact, when most people are trying to lean bulk, I actually recommend that you strive for maintenance, because it's so easy to underestimate how many calories you consume that if you strive for maintenance, it'll probably in reality put you into a slight surplus. And then that will be more than enough to make progress. Like as long as your workouts are not suffering, meaning that you've got energy enough to train hard and to recover and feel good, you've got enough. Because any excess, like this whole idea of I'm going to slam back an extra 500 or 1,000 calories a day to try and bulk up, yeah, you're going to bulk up, but it's just getting fat. And I've been guilty of this myself. And I've made that mistake far too many times than I'd like to admit. And if I could go back in time, that's one thing I would have avoided from the get go. I would have avoided this whole trying to bulk up approach, because ultimately it just makes you get fatter. And then it hinders your progress in the long term, because then eventually you're going to switch gears and say, well, I'm sick and tired of being fat. I want to diet down and get cut. And then in the process of trying to lose all the fat you gained while bulking, a lot of times you sacrifice a lean muscle in the process. And then there's this yo-yo diet syndrome up and down, and it's very frustrating. Whereas you're better to stay lean, make lean gains, slower gains, but have quality gains, right? Gains that are, it's not just excess body fat, but it's actually good quality gains. You'll look better, feel better, you'll be healthier, it's just better all around. So I appreciate what you're doing there, but don't get hung up on thinking you need 6 meals a day. If you can make it work with 3 meals a day or 4, however you want to do it, it's what you eat, not when you eat it. Moving on, we have AJ saying, hope all is well. Quick question. I have a nice prominent vein right across my left bicep, but on my right bicep, it's not as prominent. I'm left-handed. Anything to help with bicep veins? Nope. Just being honest, veins are genetic. There's really nothing you can do about it. I mean, other than build more muscle, lose the body fat that's covering the muscle, that's all you can do. And some people are going to have more veins in one side and that are visible veins. I mean, like you got veins throughout your entire body. That's what's circulating blood flow, but visible veins, the ones you see on the surface. And you really can't change it. Like you see some guys with a big bulging vein right down the middle of their bicep, and then other people might have squiggly weird veins and all different shapes and sizes and everything else. And it's just genetic. It really is. There's nothing you can do. You can't change the shape or size of your veins intentionally. It's just a byproduct of building muscle and losing fat. And then, when you build more muscle, obviously you're not only are you increasing the muscle size themselves, but very often you're increasing the size of the veins to carry more blood flow and circulation to those bigger muscles, right? Because you need to increase the network of blood flow and circulation throughout the bigger muscles. And then if you lose the body fat that's covering, then you'll be able to see the definition and detail that's underneath, but you can't change it. So if one arm has got more vascularity than the other, that's just the way it is. That's just the genetic hand of vascularity that you were dealt, and there's really nothing you can do to change it. In my case, I've got different patterns of veins in my left arm than I do in my right arm. And when I diet down and you look at some of my my bodybuilding pictures, it's visible. You can see it. I like, and there's nothing I can do, but I can't change that, right? And nobody can. Let's see. At 53, I've been training for a year, 5 times a week, lost 45 pounds, and gained muscle mass, reached a plateau or overload phase. 5 days rest and increasing protein intake helped me. Any suggestions? Okay, I'm just going to recap that one again. This one's from AT. He's been training for a year, 5 times a week, and lost 45 pounds. Well, that's huge. Obviously, that's working. Good stuff. He's reached a plateau. 5 days rest and increase in protein intake helped a lot. Any suggestions? So you probably, in the short term, kind of like burned yourself out and you just took a little rest phase. And that's helpful. One thing I would recommend instead of a true rest, meaning like doing nothing, when you get into those phases of overtraining where you feel like you're burning the candle at both ends and you're just mentally and physically exhausted, instead of stopping training and taking a full week off, just scale back the volume, scale back the intensity, kind of go through the motions with your workouts. So, for example, like let's just say you're normally doing 4 sets of each exercise in the gym and you're pushing those sets to failure. How about you just do 2 or 3 sets and you stop your sets short of failure? Like just scale back the volume, scale back the intensity, but still work out, still keep that momentum going, keep the habit alive of going to the gym on a regular basis. And that's enough, just that scale back in intensity. So you're still getting the benefits of exercise, meaning, the heart health benefits and the endorphins and the physical release of all that energy and pent up, the stress relief, all that good stuff. But you're not stressing your central nervous system. You're not placing excessive demands on the muscle that's hindering your recovery process. So just scale back the intensity. Same thing with the cardio. Like if you're really pushing high intensity cardio, just scale it back. Instead of running sprints and doing high intensity interval training, how about you just go for a walk? Right? Just go for a walk around the block, something simple like that. It's still exercise, it's still activity and keeping that habit alive, but it's allowing your body to go through an active recovery phase. And I find that that's a much better approach than simply doing nothing. Just taking the total time off. And this applies for so many things, like even injury rehab. Like a lot of times people think, well, I've injured myself, so I got to take time off the gym. I can't work out or whatever. No, very often you still can work out, but you just got to scale back the intensity and the weights and everything else to very low levels. Like a prime example, I mean, I remember back when I suffered some pretty significant muscle tears. Like I've torn both biceps. I've torn a muscle in my lat tricep tie-in area. And in the rehab process, I was still going to the gym, but instead of pushing heavy weights, like I would literally be just going through the motions. So the gym that I trained at the time had the plate loaded hammer strength machines. And I would literally do like a circuit routine using the hammer strength machines with no weight, just the empty handles. And the empty handle on a typical hammer strength machine is probably like 10 pounds of resistance or 15 pounds of resistance, depending on the exercise in the machine. And I would just literally go through the motions with the empty handles. So I'd do my workout, right? Bench presses and pull downs and rows and all this kind of stuff, but just super lightweight. And then the next week, if I was feeling good, I put like a 2.5 pound plate on each side and go through the motions, right? Super lightweight. Like doing dumbbell exercises. I go all the way down to the end of the rack and pick up the pink dumbbells, the ones that the ladies use when they're doing aerobics classes, right? I do my curls and presses and rows with the pink dumbbells, and then I work up to the blue dumbbells. Then I'd work up to the 5 pound dumbbells, and then work up to 10 pounds, and then just build it up slowly and gradually. And over the course of several weeks, I actually built myself back up to doing, decent workouts again. But like the whole idea of active recovery is actually more advantageous than total time off. So anytime you're overtraining or you're in a rehab phase or whatever, think active recovery where you're still keeping the habit of exercise in there, still keeping the blood flow in the circulation, still keeping that movement in there, but just lowering the intensity so that it's not placing excess strain on the body. It's actually allowing the body to rebuild and rejuvenate versus breaking it down. And I think that would be a much better approach. And when you go back to training again, like obviously listen to your body. And I'm not saying don't push yourself. I mean, obviously you still want to push yourself, but just be more aware of it. And if you find that you're feeling extra tired, the strength isn't there, don't be embarrassed about doing an easy workout, right? Like you're not going to set personal records every time in the gym, right? Like those are few and far between. Like once you get past the initial beginner phase, setting personal records is a very infrequent thing, right? Like I know a lot of beginners when they're starting off, the gains come so quickly because it's not just muscle gains, but it's improvement in exercise technique, improvement in efficiency, and all this. So I mean, you see guys starting off and they're like adding 5 pounds a week to a lift or more, and then once they get beyond that initial beginner phase, then they're like, oh man, I was making such good gains in my first several months of training, and now to add 5 pounds to a lift is a real struggle, whereas before I was doing it every single week. Like that's just the reality, right? That's the way it is for everybody. So I mean, once you get beyond that initial beginner phase, then it's like now you got to settle into the grind and make it a habit of just showing up. And like some days are going to be good days and you're going to feel strong and be able to push yourself and set some new personal records. But more often than not, it's not going to be personal record days. You're going to be using the same weights. And then there's days where you're not even going to hit your previous best. Like maybe you did a set last week with, I don't know, just I bench pressed 185 for 10 reps last week. Now I'm struggling to get 8 with it. Like that's normal. Your strength is going to go up and down, up and down. But what you want to do is look at the general trend. Like where is it moving over the long term and not get hung up in the day-to-day fluctuations, right? As long as it's moving in the right direction over the long term, that's a good sign. But if it's starting to downslope over the long term, then you obviously need to make some changes and adjust it accordingly. All right, let's move on. Have a sip of water first before I answer the next one. How are we doing for time? Oh, I'm almost up to an hour. So I'm going to answer another question and then probably get ready to clue it up. Kevin's asking, will I be watching the Olympian? Who do I think will win? Honestly, I don't really follow pro bodybuilding that much anymore. I really don't. It's nothing against it or whatever. It's just I don't actively go seeking it out, and I'm not following, and I don't know who all the top contenders are and whatever. So I mean, it's just I don't follow it anymore. I don't really follow much in the way of professional sports anymore. It's just, I don't know. I just focus on real world people and my coaching students and that kind of stuff. Like, so it's something I actually have no predictions to share with you on that one. Right. Ralph is saying, should I avoid turkey bacon? Well, it's up to you. I mean, I don't go out of my way for turkey bacon, but at the same time, I don't avoid it. I mean, if you enjoy it and you want to have it, then have it. I mean, it's you can have anything in moderation. and that includes turkey bacon, right? I mean, if you really enjoy it, then go for it. I mean, it's a leaner choice than the typical high fat pork bacon, but still, if you're looking at for what it is, I mean, obviously look at the calories and the macros and stuff like that and see if it fits in with what you're trying to achieve. I mean, if you're looking for a nice tasty alternative that's a little bump in protein, I mean, go for it, right? Can add some flavor to a meal if you enjoy it. Um, why would you want to avoid it? I mean, like, this is one thing. Like a lot of people, I'm not going to necessarily just talk turkey bacon, but I'm just going to talk processed meats in general. Like a lot of people say you should avoid it, and generally speaking, I understand the idea behind it. I mean, you want to try and eat natural, unprocessed foods as much as possible, but in moderation. Having some processed foods, like for example, instead of having like chicken and fish and turkey and beef and all that, like if you want to have some ham or you want to have some turkey bacon or you want to have, I don't know, some processed meats of some sort like that, from time to time it's okay. I mean, it can certainly spice up a boring diet, and it's an enjoyable way to have some variety. And I mean, I do that myself. Like sometimes I'll have like we'll buy some the lean deli meats and stuff like that. And yes, it's going to have some more sodium in it and stuff like that, but that's not a bad thing either, because if you're active and you're sweating and you're losing a lot of sodium through your training, you need to replenish it some way or another. So, I mean, I will personally have some processed ham. I mean, I choose the leaner cuts, processed sliced turkey. You know, I mean, I like it on sandwiches or wraps and stuff like that. I mean, it's just a nice variation. And speaking of turkey bacon, we actually had some this morning. My wife, right? She cooked up some eggs and turkey bacon. That was breakfast this morning. So I mean, yeah, I have it in moderation. It's not something like a staple, but from time to time, yeah, I certainly do enjoy it. And we have Niv 3K. Lee, what foods do you use as a fuel source for long cycling rides? Good one. All right. It depends on the type of ride. All right. And I'm going to share some experiences because I've done a few big rides this summer and I've learned a lot about me, my needs, and things like that. So if it's a long, just casual ride, and then the biggest ride I did this summer was 162 kilometers. It was a group ride that we did, and we did the whole Bonavista Peninsula loop. I mean, for people who are around Newfoundland, I mean, you know where that is. For the rest of you, you have no idea where that is, but it was a big ride, right? I mean, 162 kilometers. I mean, that's a respectable ride by anybody's standards, right? It's a true century ride. It's 100 miles, 160 kilometers, right? So it's a full century ride, and that was a challenging ride, but the way that worked is along the ride, every 30 kilometers or so, they had rest stops where they provided uh, water and snacks. And I also took my own snacks with me. So, like, I had some energy bars in my water bottles. I had some amino acids, and I had some carb powder. One that I like, I'll just share it. I actually have it right here on my shelf. This is one that I've been using for long bike rides. Is a Carbolin. I like this stuff. Now I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. So I mean, anyone who's like thinking this is a plug or nothing, it's just a genuine recommendation. But I like Carbolin because it's a fast absorbing uh, carbohydrate. It's absorbed basically as rapidly as like simple sugars, but it gives you sustained energy. It doesn't have that sugar crash, right? It's made with rice. Where is it to? Um, Rice, potato, and corn, right? So there's no fiber in it. It's just pure complex carbohydrates, but it's fast absorbing complex carbohydrates. So it gets in your bloodstream and in your system fast, but it doesn't give you that sugar crash. Whereas if you were consuming simple sugars, yeah, you get that spike, but then you also get a crash. So if you are going to consume simple sugars, it has to be timed right, and it'd be like just that last pick me up, like at the final phase of a long ride, where you just need, to if you're starting to bonk and you have low blood sugar, yeah, you can take a shot of simple sugars, and that can kind of give you that temporary spike, but it's also going to crash. Whereas this is something you can take like early on for sustained energy. So I mix that in with my water bottles along with some not branch chain, essential amino acids. That's what I do. So that kind of gives me the base. But then for long casual rides, I mean, if I'm stopping for a break, I'll either have a snack, energy bar. Sometimes we stop for a lunch break, right? Go to a coffee shop, and I might have a coffee and a sandwich or something like that, just actual have real food along the way. And I find like that's enough to sustain me for longer rides. Now, if it's a more intense situation, like I competed in the provincial road cycling championships back in September, and that was hard. That was a how long? 94 kilometers nonstop, right? That was a hard ride because it was done at high intensity. It was done at race pace and a nonstop ride. So there was no break, right? And that was the first time I rode that far, that hard with no break. And I found like for the first 60 kilometers, I was doing pretty good. But in the last 30 plus kilometers, my energy levels tanked. So I didn't consume enough energy early on to sustain myself. So I was still drinking the carbolin and the amino acids in my bottles and stuff. But where I wasn't having a structured break time during that ride, like I would if I was just on a casual ride, I found that I hit the wall and I bonked where I ran out of glycogen. So, I mean, in those situations, you're burning such massive amounts of calories and carbohydrates, like you need to keep them topped up. And the average, like I've heard a lot of people say, for like intense rides and stuff like that, you're burning a minimum of 60 grams of carbohydrates an hour or more, depending on. And in my case, I'm heavy for a cyclist, right? Like I was in the group that I was riding when I was like probably the heaviest, biggest guy in the group, right? From bodybuilding standards, like a lot of people think I'm small, but then on cycling standards, I'm big, right? But I mean, for someone my size, I'm probably burning like 80 plus grams of carbohydrates per hour. So, I mean, you need to replenish that many carbohydrates per hour to keep your energy levels topped up. And that's where, like, a lot of people with the carbophobes thinking, oh, you got to be low carb, keep your carbs low. Like, you'd never be able to sustain long distance endurance training because you don't have enough energy. And that was my mistake. I actually didn't consume enough early on. Even though I had a big breakfast beforehand and I was consuming the carb powder and the amino acids in my bottles, I would have been consuming more carbohydrates if I could go back and do it again. And the next time I do that event, I will be, especially in the forms of easy to digest carbohydrates. Gels are something that I would be utilizing more on early on, especially some of the slower releasing ones. And I actually picked up some to do some tests with. Again, it's more of a slower releasing energy gel, and I'll be utilizing that along with the carbolin, along with the amino acids, and hopefully that'll help to sustain the energy. Once you get beyond the 2 hour mark, like up to 2 hours, I find like that's easy. But once I'm getting beyond the 2 hour mark and into the 3 hours and beyond, that's when the nutrition really plays a big role. And most people, average Joes don't get beyond that, right? Don't exercise beyond the 2 hour mark, especially with high intensity, long duration exercise. But that's where it makes a big difference. So it's a learning curve for me, right? Then I made some mistakes for sure, but it's something that I'm working on optimizing so that I'll be able to have sustained energy throughout the duration of the ride. All right. What else we got there? So we've actually gone over an hour. Oh my goodness, an hour and 8 minutes. Let me just see. There's a couple more questions there. Dips, squats, overhead presses, press ups, and pull ups switched with chin ups and lunges. If you work out when you don't want to, you will build a mindset that makes you work based on what you need, not how you feel. Okay, that was from TS again. I'm just addressing those questions for him. I like that routine that you mentioned there. Dips, squats, overhead press, push-ups, and pull-ups. Like those exercises, I mean, you're hitting all your major muscle groups with those. I mean, I've done a lot of similar workouts myself, just focusing on those big basic exercises because you're hitting all your major muscle groups along with the supporting muscles. That's a solid routine there. Obviously, you can change it up. I mean, for example, if you don't want to do dips all the time. Well, maybe you can do some other variation, like maybe some sort of bench presses or chest presses. If you don't always want to do squats, there's a lot of different variations. You can do leg presses, or you can do like step ups or whatever. There's a lot of things you can do. Goblet squats instead of the overhead press. Like, you got a lot of variation there. It could be barbell, dumbbell machines, handstand push-ups. Right? I mean, so within that template, like, you're hitting one exercise for each major movement pattern, right? Which is what I like. But you can have a lot of variety within that core template that you're following there. And that's basically what I do, right? Like, I always, when I go to the gym now and I'm doing my total body workouts, I always think I want to do at least one exercise for each major movement pattern. So I want to do a horizontal press, a horizontal pull, overhead press, overhead pull, some sort of squat or leg press, and some work for the core, and then usually some curls and tricep extensions. And, then I'm going to throw in some other isolation work, maybe some stuff for the shoulders or whatever. But I always think of that one major exercise for each movement pattern: horizontal press, horizontal pull, overhead press, overhead pull, squat or leg press. As long as you got that in there, like, you basically got your bases covered. All right. I think that's going to clue it up, guys. All right. Because I went hour and 10 minutes, which is plenty. And I know my wife's out there. She's got dinner on the table. So I'm going to go out and join my family for dinner this evening. Hopefully you enjoy the video chat. I enjoy doing these. I enjoy sitting down and having a ramble and a chat with you. And if you do have any questions about anything discussed and you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so. You can email me. I have my email address down in the description of this video. Just open that up and you can send me an email. Or if we are friends over on Facebook, send me a private message. My Facebook is just facebook.com/Lee.Hayward, right? Or you can just search for Lee Hayward and there'll be a picture of me doing a front double bicep pose, and you'll see that there. So friend me up on Facebook if you haven't already done so. Send me an email if you got any questions, and I will chat to you next week. Same time, same place, here on YouTube. Have yourself a good weekend. Over and out. Clickety click.